Hey there, everybody. I'd like to invite you to this very brief, kind of like an impromptu share about the autumn equinox, also known as Mabon. Now, for those of you that don't know me, my name is Melina. I'm the co-owner here at Pathways Books and Gifts in St. Louis, Missouri. We are a metaphysical resource center that honors all traditions, and we try to help those that are kind of falling like just outside the realm of mainstream religion or religious practices. So we carry a lot of books on things like Wicca and Egyptian studies, Druidism, Celtic beliefs, Western ceremonial magic, Native American beliefs, Hindu beliefs. We try to like cover a lot. So I created this mostly for our folks that are part of our Facebook community because they've just been really, really great. But we thought we'd share this with everybody that was interested. Um, there will be a lot of ways that we talk about celebrating autumn equinox or Mabon. One of the most important things to remember is that everybody kind of has their own tradition. So if you think that there's only one way to do this and it's only that way, this is probably not the place for you. We try very hard to encourage people to really pick up techniques and things that speak to them rather than kind of being put in a box with a label. A lot of us have had that a lot of our lives, so it's like we don't really want to go back to that. So I would really encourage you, if you're here, to open your mind, be willing to try new things. A good example that I've used in the past is that, you know, somebody may say that they've taken a tarot class or a tarot class, but then they're not willing to take it from anyone else. And there's always things that you can learn from other people. So again, if you're open to it, we're just going to share some different ideas on Mabon and some ways you can incorporate that into your own personal belief system or your own personal path of discovery as we travel through those 8 Sabbaths. Um, what we feel here at Pathways, it's really much more important that what you practice really speaks to you and your soul's growth and your what really speaks to your heart as far as like your personal religious tradition goes. It's just really important. Anybody can read something out of a book, but if it doesn't speak to you, it's probably not the right path for you. So with all of that being said, there's this lovely spread that I set up for you guys today. Um, as we go through this, we're going to share a little bit of information on Mabon in the beginning. I think a lot of people are pretty familiar with it already. And then we're going to go into correspondences, which is what a lot of this is behind me and how you can use that. And then in the very final part of this, we'd like to cover ways that you can do your own personal deep and spiritual work. So with that being said, a lot of people call it autumn equinox. Some people call it Mabon. Now, according to a lot of information that's out there, Mabon actually came from Adian Kelly about 40 years ago. Adian was talking about how they would like to have like a male aspect to balance out the autumn equinox, because in the spring we have that feminine maiden aspect, which a lot of times is a lot of times is called Kore, which means daughter or child. And Mabon, translating from the Welsh tradition it comes from, means son, son of mother. So you have that feminine aspect in the spring, you have the masculine aspect in the autumn. A lot of people just call it autumn equinox. But like I said, it is Welsh. And we come from we being paganism in general, comes from a tradition where a lot of times if someone comes up with a new idea and people take it and they run with it, that just becomes part of your history. Now, there are folks out there that are very, it must be this way. But then it's also really kind of the beautiful thing about our own personal path and about our religion in general, religion if you choose to call it that, is that these things come up and they kind of get worked into our regular vernacular and then they become part of history. So this happened like 40 years ago when Adian had talked to Tim Zell, who is Oberon Zell now, and Oberon worked it into Green Egg, which was a magazine that was going on back then, and it kind of just really took on its own life force and kind of really accelerated and kind of rolled along. So some people call it Mabon, some people call it Autumn Equinox. I don't care what you call it, whatever speaks to you. Some other names out there for it are like Harvest, Harvest Home. I've heard and seen references to the name Cornucopia, which is this little guy down here on the end, which is like a horn of plenty. When it comes down to it, autumn equinox is the time of balance. And is there like truly like totally equal day and equal night? No. But it's an energetic time of balance. Um, and balance in the sense of harmony, not balance in the sense of things being static, but balance in the sense of things like ebbing and flowing and giving and taking and things kind of coming into alignment that way. Um, a lot of times if you have total balance, you'll have stagnation because there's no movement. So when we say balance, we really try to take on that aspect of harmony, of the ebb and the flow. Now, autumn equinox, or Mabon, falls on the actual equinox, which is one of the cross quarters on the 8 holidays of the pagan or the Wiccan year. So if you look over here, this is where Mabon falls, right directly across from Ostara, which is spring equinox. And this puts us kind of at the midpoint. There's a little joke that kind of goes around there on social media, and it says put the meh in Mabon, because it's a lot of times it's a very kind of overlooked holiday, and I'll try not to get too much on my own soapbox about that. But here's where Mabon falls, and of course we're getting ready to go into that darker part of the year. So we have Samhain, which is our next holiday, and then of course Yule. So autumn equinox is technically like a second harvest holiday for us. So you have midsummer when things like really start kind of coming in, and the fruits and everything are coming in, and then you have autumn equinox, which is a grain holiday. And again, I don't care what you call it, but I would encourage you to like really tap into that aspect of gratitude, because this is a harvest holiday. This is when we give thanks back to the sun for all the nurturing that it's given us throughout the year. And when people start to like store food away for winter, these holidays are agrarian in nature. And I always have a hard time saying that word, which is another word for agricultural, which is probably the word I should stick with. So they're very cyclical, because before we're in these current times right now, folks would really depend on the harvest. They would depend on when the food came in, when the grains came in, when it was time to slaughter the animals to hold them over through winter. So again, it's a holiday of abundance. It's a holiday of gratitude, and it's really important to kind of stick with those things, because you want to keep the energetic cycle going. We've talked before in some of our groups here. Energy is not a one-way street. So energy is a current. So it goes out, it comes back, it goes out, it comes back. So if we are just stuck in that aspect of receiving all the time, and we don't give, or at least give gratitude, that stalls out that circuit, and then things don't start flowing the way they're supposed to. And it's kind of like what we've talked about before, when the universe is always willing to help us out with anything we need. However, it expects us to like belly up to the bar and put in our share of energy, so to speak. And that's what keeps that current going, what we put out, and then it comes back to us. So this is a great time of year to focus on gratitude, which is personally one of my big things in my world. A tenet, I guess you would say, a tenet of what I believe. Gratitude is so very, very important. A prayer that I like to use a lot of the times is, when so many in the world have so little, I am truly grateful for the blessings I receive each and every day. Because if you put it in that kind of perspective, there are so many people out there so much worse off than we are. So again, that's the end of my soapbox, but this is why it's important. So with that being said, we will be getting ready to go into the next video that I'm going to do for you guys, which is going to be all about this lovely table of correspondences behind us. So make sure that you tune back in for the next video, and we will pick up right where we left off. Thanks so much for tuning in.